All right, thanks for sticking with me on lesson 8. It's part 3. So I found the class that we need to move this stuff over to the right. Took a little bit of digging. So now our username and logout show up over here. So if I go back to my layout file, the class we need, I had tried ML Auto. That was a Bootstrap 4 class. We're using Bootstrap 5 now, so the class we need is actually ms-auto. So in our second UL here, that contains our username, logout, register, and login links. If we add the class ms-auto, that will justify it to the right. At full scale, which gives us this result. So we want to deal with the logout button because right now we don't have a logout method. So we're going to need that. And then we can add an authentication check into our artist controller so that users can only add, edit, and delete if they are logged in. So we're going to write a simple logout method that's going to use passport. I'm going to go back to our index controller. And down at the bottom, we've got our get and post handlers for login. We need a get handler for logout. So when we have a get request at /logout, we use our request and response. And we want to sign the user out, redirect them back to the login screen. So we'll call request.logout. So this is built into Passport. And then we're just going to redirect back to /login. Pretty simple. So if we sign in, we're going to see our username and logout in the nav bar. We can navigate around the site as soon as we click log out. Our username and logout will disappear. Register and login will reappear at the top right, and we're going to get sent back to the login screen. So we're using Passport. It has a built-in logout method of the HTTP request object. It's a nice, simple method. We'll try it out. So I will go and navigate around here. And when I log in, so our username and logout show up. We can move around, we can add an artist. As soon as I click log out, we can tell that our session, our user identity has been released from the session object. Because now our nav bar is just saying register and log in, no matter where we are. So here's our logout method. Pretty simple, 4 lines of code with a comment. Sign the user out and take them back to the login screen. So we've done all of this. We spent 2 hours configuring Passport, setting up a registration and login form and functionality, but everything on our site is still public, right? We haven't actually implemented any real security measures. As an anonymous user, I can still go and, I can add, I can edit, and I can delete. So we now want to add some security checking to the project, much like you're going to do in assignment 3, so that only an authenticated user can use these functions, add, edit, delete. Okay, so we're going to need to add some logic into the artist controller as well as some logic into this view to ensure that somebody is logged in before they can create, update, or delete. So this is what we want to configure. So we're going to do all of this inside of the artist's controller. So let's go there. So we're going to write a function in here that's going to check if our user is authenticated or not. And then on the get, on the create, edit, and delete methods, we're going to call that function before we do anything else. Kind of like adding the authorize decorator in ASP.NET over a method. We're going to have an auth check. Now, so far we've been only dealing with two callback parameters. We've used request and response over and over again. It should be getting familiar. There's actually a third parameter available in the Express library called next, meaning what if we want to do something after we call an Express function? So we're going to use it here. So we are going to use the Express built-in method to check for user identity. If it's found, if a user is found, continue to the next method. So we can just say if our request.is authenticated, and this is a method call, we'll return next. So just carry on. Continue calling whatever method. Otherwise, if no user found, go to login. So in this case, we're going to redirect to login. So if we find a user here, we have an authenticated user, we just return, we leave this function and we carry on. Otherwise, we're going to stop whatever we were doing and we're going to take the user to the login page. So we need to call our auth check from almost all of the methods in this controller, just not the first one. The list of artists anybody can see. But our create, get, and post, our edit, get, and post, and our delete method, all of those, we need to call this auth check from all of the other method handlers here. That, in effect, is going to make all of those other methods private. And so add the auth check. You don't have to call it auth check. You could call this method anything you like. And then we're going to scroll underneath our first get method, and we're going to call auth check from all of the other methods. So you're going to start here with the get artists create. So here's how this works. Before our callback with request and response, we're going to interrupt this and we're going to call auth check here. So we now call auth check first. So let's see how this works. So as soon as we have a GET request at this path, the first thing we do is our authentication check. If our user's logged in, then we continue on to do the rest of this code. So I've added this auth check with a comma before our request response callback. Let's see if this works. So I'm not logged in right now. I can go to artists, but if I try and go here, whoops, I've got request.redirect. This should be response redirect. In my auth check, go back up to our method here. Wrong parameter. REQ should be RES. So it's our response that redirects if the user's not logged in. I'll make that change here in my auth check function. And I'll try it again. So I'm going to go to artists. And now when I try and add a new artist, I'm not logged in, so it bounces me here. So that method has now been secured. I can't call the get method if I'm not logged in. If I log in and click add a new artist, so one other thing we need to do to get this to work. This is just going to time out. See what's going on in my terminal. Here's the issue. It's calling get and it's just hanging. So we need to add something here. We need to add this third parameter after request and response. We now need this next parameter. Without it, the code never comes back from the auth check. Auth check sends us back, it calls next, but nothing happens. So we need this next parameter here. I'm going to try that. So I've added that in artist create. We've got request response in our callback, and now I've added next. So I will log out here, log in again. Okay, that didn't solve my problem. Let's see. I think I know what I did wrong. Oh. My problem is actually here. Sorry, maybe, let me undo that. We'll see. I may not need the next parameter. We'll try it. I may need it. Return next, this is a method call. So I made two mistakes in auth check. Forgot the brackets. So this is a method call. I need those brackets in the return next statement. I'm not sure if I need the next parameter down here. I'm going to try it without it. I'm going to have to put it back in. So make sure in our return next, it's a method call, there's brackets at the end. I'll try one more time. We'll log in. Yeah, and now when I click add, it now can run the request response callback. So our artist create method the get method is secure. However, edit, delete, we need to call this auth check on all of these. So first on our post, again, we want to call auth check here. And then we're going to add it to both the edit and delete methods as well. So after our path, we're calling auth check each time before our request response callback. This is going to make all of the methods private except for the first one. So I'm going to add that auth check call how many times? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we've got 6 methods in the controller. 5 of the 6 are going to use our authentication check. Only this one that shows our index view. This one is public. It doesn't need an auth check. So I'm going to add it to all of these. And now as an anonymous user, I cannot edit, delete, or add. I'm blocked, prevented from doing any of these things. Because I'm calling auth check on all of those route handlers. So we have one final thing to do, and that is to hide in the artist index view. We want to hide these links if the user is not logged in. They can still see the artist names, but they can't add, they can't even see those links. So we're going to add a little bit of logic into the views artists index file. So we're going to wrap our link on line 2, as well as the links on lines 9 and 10. We're going to wrap these in if statements. We'll say, if we have a user, then we will show the add a new artist. Same here. If we have a user, then we'll also render those edit, delete links. So the links for adding, editing, and deleting, these are only visible when someone's logged in. If an anonymous user is looking at this page, they want to see the list of artists, no problem. But they're not going to see any links for adding, editing, or deleting. So it's the same condition, if statement at the top around this link, and then also, again, inside of our loop. So now I get 2 versions of the page. Right? As an anonymous user, cool, I can see what's in the database, but I have no ability to change it. Even if I try and go to the URL directly, I can't. Once I log in, whoops, we've got this link. Let's see, what did we miss? I think we've got to go up because we're inside of the artists. So it doesn't recognize the user object inside of the artists. So we got to make one small change. I think we've got to just traverse the path, because inside of the loop, the user object is not part of the artist's object. I think we need that // in front of our user object. Let's try that again. Yeah, so now when I'm logged in, I can add, edit, and delete. As soon as I log out, I have a read-only version of the page. So we've secured access in the controller, so an anonymous user cannot call, create, edit, or delete. And they also cannot see those links in the view. When we log in, now I have access again. I can add, edit, and delete, so long as I've authenticated. So you'll need to implement similar functionality in your assignment, that anonymous users can see the data in your MongoDB, but only an authenticated user can add, can edit, can delete. Okay. We've covered quite a bit today. I think we're going to stop here. I will upload all my code up to GitHub. So if you need to work with it at all, or you're watching the lesson later, make sure you implement Passport in your project. So for next week, you should have implemented Passport local in your NodeTunes app. And I'll just add this. You've secured resources using Passport, and you should have submitted assignment 2. So your project plan of what you're going to build for assignment 3. I'll upload everything to Git. Are there any questions before we call it a day? Jason, good question about making auth check global. Yeah, we could put it in a separate file and then we could include it. The one challenge with making it totally global is we do have that one public method in the artist controller. So if we make it totally global, it's going to be difficult to override in that one method. But it is possible to do, yes. It's a good question, Jason. Yes, Booger, go ahead. Yes, just give me 1 second. I just, for some reason, stuff didn't get to Git, but I will. 1 moment, please. Okay, so my code is there. Okay, yes, index.js.